Okay, today's class is CAD 214 MEP. Today is Wednesday, October 7th. Today in class, we're going to be going over electrical outlets and placement of outlets. This is the information on screen that we shared on Monday that you were to review for class today. We're going to start with just outlets to get you started. And what I would like you to do during this exercise when you start doing your own work is to refer back to these two sheets from the PowerPoint presentation that talks about the different type, how the placement of outlets and things like that. So I do want you to kind of refer back to this information, just so we have that kind of top of mind at the moment. When you're thinking about placing outlets, as we've all noticed, especially us, if we've been around a while, is that we need more and more outlets now than we did, like, say, even 20 years ago, because we have so many more electronic appliances and things now, electronic technology, iPhones. How many times have we run out of places that we need to plug in our iPhone? So it's different stuff that we need to think about as far as how we want to make sure that these outlets are laid out. So a lot of the stuff that we want to think about is some of the stuff that you want to think about with, like, within a house is where are these outlets going, what's going to be used at these particular outlets? You know, especially obviously in the kitchen, you'd want more outlets than normal. In a living room, you could use regular spacing, but then depending on your layout, especially if you have a raised house, sometimes it's nice to have in-floor outlets and things like that. Other things to think about taking into consideration is some people are now placing their outlets like higher. Our typical height for an outlet, a wall outlet, is 18 inches. Some people are going higher than that now, just, you know, for, you know, flooding and things like that. So there's a lot of things that you want to think about, and there should always be a thought process behind why you're laying out something, why you're designing it a certain way. So these are some general guidelines, and let's read through those now. So placement of outlets, you want to think about furniture and appliance consideration, kind of what we just kind of briefly talked about just there. Living and service areas, 1 outlet per 6 feet of wall and no further than 6 feet from each corner. In the kitchen area, 1 outlet per 4 foot of wall. Each appliance should have an outlet. Hallways, every 15 feet of wall. For bathrooms, at least 2 outlets, one above 12 inches of sink or counter. You always want to use a GFI, which is a ground fault interrupter outlet, which means if, say, you drop your hairdryer in the bathtub, if it's hooked into this, it's supposed to cut off, so it's cut off that electricity. As you'll see in this lower left-hand corner, right-hand corner, you can't really read it really there, but there's a reset button for when this flips. I'm sure most of us have these in our kitchens or anywhere they're near a water source or anything like that. There's also weatherproof outlets on exterior positions for decorative lighting, at least 1 outlet and light in the attic and a crawl space, and then once again the GFI outlets. So there's lots of different things that you want to think about, and this is just kind of like really high level stuff. There's more stuff that you can even drill down to when it comes to placement of outlets. But remember, there's always a thought process behind it. Another thing to take into consideration is what type of, especially for the project that we're doing, is what type of building are we going to be working on. The building that we're working on now is a commercial building. So what's going on in those particular spaces? In this one, we haven't defined it. It's just a general office space that you can think of as classrooms or offices or things like that. But say, for instance, if one of these classrooms was a lab classroom, much as the classrooms that we have at Delgado, we have to have a lot of outlets there. And if it has, different, different equipment in it, you have to know that information going into that room design as well. So what we need to go into for our room design is just that it's basically their office spaces. They'll be taking place in classrooms, and we can use these general outlines that we have here in order to use these ideas for our placement of our outlets as we create those. So you can refer back to that. For us to get started now, we're going to go ahead and jump into Revit and how we're going to do that. So we're still going to continue to use that original model that you have. We're not going to use the one that has your HVAC supplies in it. We'll keep that separate. So we're going to start a new template, which will be an electrical template. So when you open up Revit, we're going to go to New. And as we've looked in here before, we have construction, architectural, structural, mechanical. So none of these are actually talking about electric templates. So we actually want to go into Browse. And you'll notice there's more templates in here. So this is the electrical default template. We're going to use this one. And when we open that up, if you look under your project browser, you notice that this project browser is different than the other ones. It's got different layouts. We have our lighting layouts. We have our power layouts. And for this one to start with, we're going to just use the power layout. So I'm going to go to my Insert tab, and I'm going to link the Revit file just like we did before. And one of the things I noticed in the midterm, which by the way, most people did really well on the midterm, so congratulations to that. Really pleased with the results that everybody did. If you have any questions about your grade or have any questions about the comments that I made in your file, let me know and we can meet one-on-one and discuss that. But for the most part, everybody did really well, so great job, everybody. But one of the things that I did notice is that when you closed this file, that Revit link disappeared, and we want to make sure that that doesn't happen. So how do we solve that? So we're going to link the file the same way. We're going to go to Revit link, and I'm going to find where I have that file. And we're going to use the 2-story that we've been using. And when I have that file in here, the first thing I want to do before I do anything else is I'm going to go ahead and save it. So I'm going to go to File, Save As, Project. I'm going to go to the file where I want that saved. And you can call it electrical plan and put your initials behind it, or your name, either one. And then we hit save. So now when we close this out, and if we go back into it, your Revit link should be saved. It should not disappear. So first thing you do, go ahead and save it. Another way to make sure that you have this available, oops, go away screen, okay, is go into the Manage tab, go into Manage Links, and it should be saved right here. You can see that Revit file link is right here. So that was the one thing that I saw lots of people miss on the other one. Since it was kind of a universal thing, I didn't really take off for that. So going forward, we should be able to get that corrected. All right. So here we have our electrical plan ready to go. We've got our power, and we're going to go to Floor Plans, Power 1. So the first thing that we want to do when we get ready to lay out our electrical system is we're going to go to our Systems tab. And to the right-hand side of our Systems tab, you'll notice that's where we have our electrical information. The first thing we're going to do is lay out our outlets. So if we go to our electrical tab and our device tool, and let's just do this drop down, you'll notice there's a lot of different stuff that we can choose from here, a lot of things that we're going to be using. The default is electrical fixture, and that's what we want to select. And then if we go over to our properties and we do the drop down, you'll notice we could just have 2 that are preloaded in here. We have the GFI one, and then we have a standard duplex outlet. At this point, we're going to use these as a default, but I do want to show you where there's some more available. If you go to load family, and you go to electrical, MEP, electrical power, and terminals, you'll notice there's a bunch of different varieties of ones that you can use from here. It's countertop, a bunch of different ones. So they do have different ones that you can use that you can load into here. There's a quad, it looks a little different here. So there are other options that we can use, but just to keep things simple for us this time, we're going to go ahead and use the ones that are preloaded in here, either a standard one or the GFI. So with this standard one active, it works very similar to a door or a window. You can't just place it anywhere arbitrarily at this moment because I have place on face active. So that means I have to have that attached to a wall. And notice when I start clicking here, it's just going to drop that into place. One of the things that you'll have to do, I'm just kind of arbitrarily putting them in here now, is you'll have to calculate how many you'll need per room based on the information from that PowerPoint. Then we need a couple for the hallway. So the main thing you want to do here is figure out the calculations for how many outlets you'll need per room. I'm going to go ahead and put 1 or 2 in our mechanical room, and this is our mechanical room that we're using, or HVAC room. This will count as mechanical room for all of it. And probably won't need one in the stairwell, but we'll just drop one anyway, you never know. I'll drop one over here. So now I have all my outlets laid out. As we had mentioned before, sometimes you may need to put a outlet on the floor if you have a lot of like lab work that's going on in this area right here. You may want to plan ahead and have outlets for the floor. In order to place floor outlets, we can change this from place on vertical face to place on face, period. So when we click that, now you can see we can drop these over a floor space. So we can drop a couple of those in there like that. And how you want to think about the placement for that is what is going to be going in that space. If it is a lab, you would want to have that lab furniture laid out where that's going to go. If this is for a residential, if this is going to go in the living room, you'd want to think approximately where is that sofa going to go and have the light fixtures, the outlets on either side of where the sofa would be. So you want to think about that process of where you're placing these. So it wouldn't make a whole lot of sense to kind of put one of these in a corner or anything like this on the floor. Maybe it is if you had a client that was like, I'm going to have, you know, something over here in this corner right here, and I want that outlet. They've thought ahead of that. But there's always a thought process behind where these things are placed. So once we have our outlets placed, I have something that kind of looks like this, looks like little balloons or something. Next thing we want to do is we want to add our panel board. So in order to add the panel board, we're going to go to Systems tab, Electric Panel, and Electrical Equipment. When we click on Electrical Equipment, if we go to Properties and we do the drop down over here, you'll notice that there's different ones available here as well. What will usually happen as a drafter is that the engineer will have done these calculations and it will be instructing you which one they want to use. So there's some that are in here. Also, if we go to Load Family, And we go to electrical, MEP, electric power, and distribution. There's other panel boards available as well. And when we're creating these for your midterm or any other project, you'll be instructed which one to use. And usually, depending on the power load, the engineers will instruct you which one to use as well. So for this particular project, we're just going to use this lighting and appliance panel board 208 MCB surface mounted. So double click on that. We're going to place that in our mechanical room. It's up to you where you want to place it. Just make sure you don't have anything backed up to another one like this, because we don't need that shared space, and that wall is only 4.5 inches, remember. We want to make sure that we keep this separate. Also, if you notice that one, when we put that in place, the height elevation on this is 4 foot. It defaults to 4 foot. If we wanted to make it higher or lower, you can adjust that at this time. Same goes for our outlets. When we place those, if I highlight this outlet, you'll notice that the default for the outlet is 18 inches, 1 foot 6 inches. If you wanted to place some of these higher, you can place them and then you can change the height. If I wanted this one to be at 4 foot, I can change that to 4 foot at this time, or I could have changed it ahead of time, and that way you have those at different elevations as well. Any questions so far, y'all?
Yeah, what box did you just use?
Electrical equipment. Then I went to load family. Let me go through the path again so you have it. We're going to go to electrical, MEP, electrical power, distribution, and then we're going to go down to this one right here, lighting and appliance panel board 208V surface.
Okay, thank
It'll
you.
be surface mounted, this one right here. And then we're just going to place that in the electrical room, in the mechanical room. So with this placed in the mechanical room, I'm going to go back to the panel board. I'm going to highlight it, make it active. I'm going to come back to my properties and I'm going to scroll down in properties to panel name. Sometimes there'll be a number of panels used. We're going to use at least 2 panels in this project, because there'll be one on the first floor and one on the second floor. So I want to make sure that those names are clear and I don't get mixed up. So for this panel name, I'm just going to call this first floor panel. And I hit enter. So you'll notice now it has panel name first floor. Next thing I want to do is I want to start my circuit. So once again, you want to think about an order, the way that this is going to be distributed. And what I mean by that is, much like any kind of circuit breakers or anything, a lot of different lights or outlets are going to be on one particular line. So you want to think about how they're organized. So typically what I do is I do that by room and area. So I know that all of these will be on the same circuit line. I wouldn't go like this one and then this one and then this one and then one over here and arbitrarily just pick outlets. Once again, think about the method you want to do something in order to connect these to that one circuit line that will come back to this panel board. So how we're going to connect that circuit line is we'll go ahead and start in the upper left-hand corner with this one in the stairwell. So I'll click on that, just that one outlet, and make it active. Now up here, I'm going to click on power. And now I want to pick the panel that I want this power attached to. We're going to use panel. Here it's set to none. And if I do the drop down, notice I have my first floor panel here. So I can click on that. Now we know that it's connected to this panel right here. If we had multiple floors, obviously we want to make sure that we're picking the panel that corresponds to the correct floor. We're going to do the same thing like this on the second floor. So with this floor panel active, I'm going to go to Edit Circuit, and I'm going to pick all the outlets I want that are going to be on the same circuit. So once again, I'm just going to try and group them together. That one room, this room, and we'll see what happens. So once you pick a certain number, and I think it's around 8 or 9, it's going to give you that the total connected load for circuit 1 is exceeding 80% of the defined rating. So that means there's obviously only so many outlets you can have on each line. And that's important to think about, especially when we're laying out these. If we have too many on one line, it's going to overload it. And if we have too many in multiple rooms, you can see how that would be confusing if one breaker flipped and then you've got lights going out here, 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 here. You want to try and keep things grouped together. So one of the things that I want to try to notice is there a way that I can keep all my rooms together within one circuit? You can see that I have 5 here. And then with all these other ones added, it kind of overloads that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on Remove from Circuit. And I'm going to take these off. Notice how it changes color from that dark bold font to a lighter font. And I'm going to add these ones in the hall. Add circuit again. I'm going to add those back on. And that's going to, I'm going to stop right there because that's going to give me enough of a load for the hallway, for the stairwell, and for this one room on that circuit line. Now I'm going to hit Finish Editing Circuit. That'll close that out. And now you'll see when we click on this outlet right here, and we go to our properties, and we scroll up, under electric load, it's set to first floor panel, and then circuit number 1. So now I can go on to do circuit number 2. I'm going to try and group all of these guys together in this one room on another circuit line. So I'm going to click this one, same thing, click on power. This is still set to first floor panel. Edit circuit, and I'm going to click on all the ones in this room. Let's see what happens if I can go over on this one. Nope, it's not going to let me add those other ones, so I'm going to go ahead and remove those again. And I want to keep this circuit specific to this room, and I'm going to go ahead and finish editing circuit, and then I've got my next circuit finished. So now when I click on this, it's set to first floor panel in circuit number 2. So you want to do that till all your circuits are complete and they're all hooked up to that different panel. And that's the beginning of what we're going to be doing for electrical. So your assignment for this week is to lay out all your outlets and upload that into Revit. So you'll have a bunch of outlets completed. You'll upload your electrical equipment. You're going to be using the same panel board that I selected right here. And you're going to have all those outlets connected to that panel board. And that'll be due Saturday. So it's really straightforward. And one of the questions I had at the beginning of the semester is, why are we doing Revit instead of Cadd for this? Is because most of the time you're going to be doing this in Cadd, you would be actually just drawing and creating blocks for these little guys right here. And then once you create the blocks, you're going to be laying them out the same way. And it's a lot of extra drawing where you're using the same process here. And you can see once we get that done and we flip to 3D, you'll see how we have our boxes laid out where they're supposed to be.
Is there a way in AutoCAD that it can look 3D like this?
You can
without
do,
us having to draw it?
actually, the plans would be in 2D because when we're finishing our actual plans, the plans are 2D. It just gives us a different dimension to do this in a 3D version. You
Okay.
can't actually create an extruded, box or anything, but that's not how the plan would actually come out. This is nice because we can see it laid out for your client, and it's just kind of, from a different view, it's easier to read. But in AutoCAD, you really wouldn't need a three-dimensional view of it because we're going to strictly be using two-dimensional plans. Any other questions?
Yeah, that panel that comes up on the outside of the building, is there a way to change that, or is that automatically placed closest to
This
the?
panel?
No, like if when you were in 3D, it looks like there's a panel that comes up on the outside wall.
Oh, it's not on the outside wall, it's on the inside. There it is, it's just a view. Here you can see this is this is that same panel. If we highlight that, it's the same panel that we placed. It's just the way it comes through on the views.
Oh, okay, when you're looking at it in a certain direction.
Yeah, so if we
Okay.
kind of click on it this way again,
Okay, yeah, I
it looks
see
like it's on the, it looks like it's on the front, but when we actually do like a elevation view, a side view, it's not actually on the inside.
Okay, yeah,
But it is a bit confusing.
thank you.
So, and then when we tilt it like this, you can see how it's actually in that place. But it also gives you a way of looking at the different elevations of the outlets and things like that. And we'll go into that in a little bit more detail later on. I just kind of wanted to give you an idea of what this looked like now, so you can go ahead and get started, and then we'll play with some other stuff later. So, yes.
Is there any way of visually seeing whether an outlet has been assigned a circuit?
Yeah,
Or
you have to click on it.
you have to click, that's
So
it?
if I click on this one, I see it's assigned to circuit number 2. If I click on this one over here, it's not assigned to a panel and it's not assigned to a circuit.
Okay, there's no color change like there was with the HVAC. Huh?
No, not on this one, which is unfortunate. It is a little frustrating. So sometimes what people will do, they'll print out this, and then as they're laying it out, they'll just check these guys off on the page. But yeah, these don't change color.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, so that's it for today's lecture. You can go ahead and get this knocked out and turned in by Saturday evening. And once again, all outlets and panel boards on first and second floors with all of those connected. And if you've got any questions, just shoot me a text and I'll be happy to help you at that time.
I got one more question.
Yes, of course.
I know you're saying you weren't doing it specifically, but is there a reason there's no outlets on the other wall, like the closest wall?
Oh, this wall right here?
Yeah.
Oh, no, I was just randomly, I was just randomly
Okay,
dropping.
so I mean, every wall needs an outlet.
Yes, yeah. I didn't even notice I did that. I was just kind of like randomly sticking them on anywhere.
Okay.
On there. In order for you to, what I would do, in order to make sure that your outlets are placed correctly, is I have to refer back to this PowerPoint with the placement of outlets. So like it says living and service areas. So basically service areas is the same that we're doing for this office space. So yeah, 1 outlet per 6 foot of wall. So you would definitely want to include them on that outer wall.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry for the confusion on that. I was just kind of like throwing them on randomly. But yeah, you would want to calculate, say like, all right, go away. So if in my modify panel, I've got a measuring tool, like a little ruler, so I can like measure this wall right here, or you can use your annotate and use your dimensions. But I tend to use this as well. So this is, this space is 10 foot. So according to this information right here, 1 outlet per 6 foot of wall. Since that whole entire wall is 10 feet, I only really need 1 outlet. I'm not actually going to need it in the hall, in the stairwell, but I'm just kind of showing you where it would be. Technically, there would be a landing right here, and we would put one here. So since I know this is 10 foot space, I can just put one outlet in that spot right there. And usually what I would do is I would put that in the intersection in the midpoint of that wall. So if we did the same thing for this wall over here, let me measure this wall. Okay, that wall is 15 feet. Technically I probably, if this window wasn't here, I could probably get away with just one outlet in the middle of it. Since this window is here and it's 15 foot of wall, what I would actually want to do is probably put another outlet on there as well. And another thing that we need to think about when we place that, it does have that they should be no further than 6 feet from each corner. So once again, you can go ahead and use your modify tool. Measurement, and I can measure from here to the wall, and that's 3 foot. So I kind of like that measuring tool a little bit more than the dimensions for this one, just because it's quicker. You don't have to clean them up or anything after. So I definitely recommend using the Modify tab and this measuring tool right here. So yeah, so I believe you have the dimensions of these walls already. I'm not sure, but if you don't, you can easily use that measuring tool and then use that measuring tool to measure between the different outlets. And if we did this one, you can measure between this outlet. So we've got 9 foot of space between those. So we could probably make that a little less because it said these should be at least 6 foot. Once again, it's a logical thing too. You know, if you know in a particular room you're going to be needing more outlets, you know, maybe here you would put a quad receptacle instead of a duplex. A quad is 4. But right now we're just using the duplex outlets. If you want to go into a little bit more advanced stuff, you can go ahead and go into load family. And use the different terminals. Remember, there's different terminals. Let's just pick, let me pick that quad receptacle so you can see what that looks like. I'll double click on that. This is actually a GFI quad receptacle. So remember, it's a grounded one. You may want to use this one in like the janitor's closet because there's going to be 4 electrical sources on that. And then it's also grounded, so if there's water in the janitor's closet, which there usually is, this would be the best receptacle to use at that time. Let's see what a 3D. And you can see right there, there's that larger one that I used. So this is a duplex. This is the quad. When I click on the quad, that's actually set to a 4 foot elevation. So you can see the difference between the two. So you're only required to use the 2 that are already loaded into your Revit model. If you want to do a little bit more advanced stuff, you can do some research on that. You can use these quad ones where you see necessary or any other ones. But just to get started, we're just going to go ahead and use the defaults that we have on here now. Once again, these would be connected the same way that these are. Any other questions? We're getting ready to lose time in about a minute, so we can restart if we need to. Okay, y'all, if there's any questions, text me, let me know. If not, should definitely be able to get this knocked out by Saturday, and I will see you on Monday. Thanks, everybody.